Hey everyone, sfreezy here, back for another deep dive deck tech on one of my favorite monocard commanders. This is my own personal list for Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. We have a legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor, for 1 black black. It's a 3-drop. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, draw a card. This is obviously going to push us into an aggressive shell of evasive weenies, but separately, our opponent's drawing cards, and we can exploit as well. And remember, they only get this benefit when they're attacking their opponents and not you. So this will incentivize the board to kind of attack everybody but you to draw cards. And while this is happening, everybody's life total is going to be going down, making your evasive threats that much closer to lethal. But there's more. For 4 and triple black, you can discard X cards from your hand, exile the top X cards of any opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among the cards, exile this way without paying their mana costs. Even if your cards become dead in the late game because you do have a bunch of cheap evasive threats, you can hold them in hand and then pitch them all at instant speed to just play cards from an opponent's library, usually like the biggest, rampiest player at the table. Instant speed cannot be understated here. This ability, I initially thought when building the deck would be kind of an afterthought, but it's come up in most of my games. Every time you connect, you're drawing a card. So you will see so many cards, therefore you will see enough lands to reliably activate this ability at least once per game, often more than once. And this will mitigate the somewhat poorer draws we have versus a more mid-rangey deck in that any weak flyer that will be great in the early game that we don't want to cast on turn 7, we don't have to. We can turn it into a card from our opponent's deck. Now that we've established why our commander is good, let's go into some cards that will help him stay in play. We have both Unearth and Reanimate for this deck. They're mostly intended to get back Gix, as he is kind of the linchpin of this deck. You want this commander in play to get the souped up Toski effect in black. It's also worth noting that these reanimate spells work with cards we discard from our hand, so if we do happen to draw one of our bombs and then pitch it to his ability, we can reanimate it or unearth it as well. Next, we got our ramp spells. We are very low to the ground aggro decks, so we're running a little bit of ramp, but not a lot. One of the most important ones is Sword of the Animist. It's 2 mana for an equipment. Equip creature gets +1/+1. Whenever they attack, you can search for basic land and put on the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. Equip cost is 2. So for 4 total mana, you get an extra land per turn every turn. We've also got Dark Ritual. It's an instant to add triple black to your mana pool. This can let you play a turn 1 commander, which is super sweet, or it lets you play a bomb 2 turns early, or just dump your hand full of all your weenies so you can get in for more attacks early on. Then attack and put more cards back in your hand. We've got Thought Vessel to make sure that we're never going to have to discard a hand size. We want to save cards in our hand to just dump them all for Gix's ability, not because he drew too many. Our last 2 ramp effects double as win cons. Bantu's Monument should go in every single mono black deck. It's 3 mana for a legendary artifact. Black creature spells cost 1 less to cast. And then, whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Drain effects are great here because everybody's life total will be rapidly dwindling with Gix on the battlefield. So we want to put the extra hurt on our opponents while also softening the hurt for us. With that in mind, we're also mono black decks, so we're running Crypt Gas, 3 and a black for a spirit. It's a 2/2. Whenever you tap a swamp for mana, an additional black, so it doubles your black mana off of your swamps, which is again most of your lands, and it has extort. So whenever you cast a spell, you can pay black in this case, but it's black or white, to drain each opponent for 1. So everybody loses 1 life, you gain 3. And gaining 3 is super important when you're often losing 5 to 7 life on the attack step. So you want to gain the life back, and then you're also reducing your opponents, which again, and this is true, means they will die sooner. The bulk of this deck are evasive weenies, but a lot of them have upside too, which is kind of nice. One of our best options is Snarling Gorehound, 1 black for a menace 1/1 dog. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters on the battlefield in your control, surveil 1. This is most of your cards, and so getting a free surveil on pretty much any creature you play is a very strong ability for an evasive 1-drop. And for those of you who don't know, Menace is Italian for hard to block. Next, we've got another 1-drop with a stacked ability. Shadow Alley Denizen is 1 black for Vampire Rogue. Whenever another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gains Intimidate until end of turn. This means it can be blocked by artifact creatures and or creatures that share color with it, aka black. This will mean that a non-black creature cannot block basically whatever you want. This will push through damage so effectively for 1-drop, it's insane. Some of our creatures have abilities that mean they can't be blocked on their own. Tormented Soul and Changing Outcast both can't block and can't be blocked. They're only 1/1s, but again, each of these connections, you're drawing a card losing a life, so well worth for 1 mana. We've also got Gingerbrute. It's a 1-drop. It's got haste, and for 1 mana, it can't be blocked except by creatures with haste, which will again not be unblockable, but be pretty darn close. And you can always sack it to gain life, which is kind of nice in a deck that does a lot of damage to itself. Next, you have 3 shadow creatures. Stealthy Slayer is double black for a 2/2 with shadow. Means it can block or be blocked by only creatures with shadow. Shadow is its own special class of evasion, kind of like horsemanship. Stealthy Slayer attacks each turn if able, but again, we're going to do that anyway. We want to attack with this deck, so that's not actually a downside. This is just a 2/2 that draws a card every single turn. Nether Traders double black for a haste spirit with shadow as well. This one's only 1/1, but it has haste, so it kind of gets us the trigger immediately. And this one's even better because whenever a creature is put to a graveyard from the battlefield, you can pay black. If you do, return it to the battlefield. Again, with haste, so it gets in immediately. This is just an additional source of damage for one black that will draw you a card. Pretty much whenever anything dies, this card's great. The last one is Dalty Voidwalker. Modern players know this one is double black for a 3/2 with Shadow, so it's more aggressive. If a card you put into opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile the void counter on it, since it's graveyard hate and aristocrat slash death trigger hate, stable to an evasive beater. But there's more. Tap and sacrifice it, choose a card exiled with it, and you can play that card this turn without paying its mana cost. So this is an amazing attacker. You can also hold this up to copy your opponent's powerful spells and ignore timing restrictions. You've also got Hope of Garaport. It's a 1 mana 1/1 with flying. You can sacrifice it until your next turn. The player who it dealt damage to can't cast non-creature spells. So this is great on the control opponent if it manages to connect, and just by itself is another evasive flyer. Unwilling Ingredient is great. It's a frog with menace for 1 mana, and for 2 and a black you can exile from your graveyard. You draw a card, lose 1 life. This is great both as an attacker to draw your cards because it's evasive, and then separately it's great sacrifice fodder or discard fodder to your commander because for additional mana you can draw cards later in the game. Fairy Dream Thief is the same card, but you can replace Menache with flying. Vampire Cutthroat's a 1-drop with Skulk, which means it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. It's also got lifelink. Vault Scourge is 1 in Phyrexian Black for 1/1. It's got flying and lifelink. Again, the evasive lifelinkers are great because they're going to counteract the damage they're doing to you. Gifted Aetherborn is not evasive, but it's got Death Touch and lifelink. So if they do block it, it usually trades up, and it will often destroy your cards because no one wants to trade with the 2-drop. We are also running its souped up cousins, Nighthawk Scavenger, which is just Vampire Nighthawk, but it gets a power boost based on the card types in your opponent's graveyard, so it'll gain you more life and deal more damage to your opponents. And Car's Revenant, which is a 3/3 with Death Touch, Flying, and Lifelink, and it has Renew, so if you discard it to commander's ability, or if it dies, you can then pay 3 mana to give something else Death Touch, Flying, and Lifelink, which is amazing. A lot of our stuff goes wide but not tall, so we're also running Lashrith to go tall and have a big blocker. It's a living weapon that gets +X for X number of swamps you control, which is most of your land, and this is also great because you can pay Phyrexian mana to maybe attach it to a lifelinker and then get all of your life back that you've lost. Another newcomer to the deck is Rot Curse Rakshasha. It's 1 in a black for a trampling 5/5 demon, but it does have Decayed. It can't block, and when it attacks, sacrifice into combat. X and double black, exile from your graveyard, put a Decayed counter on each of X target creatures, acting only as a sorcery. This will remove your opponent's creatures from blocking, and when they attack, they die. This is also disastrous for Skullfire players. Next, we got Raven of Fell Omens. It's a flying 1/2 bird for 2 mana. Whenever you commit a crime, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. It triggers only once each turn, but this counts your removal, it counts your commander's second ability. This will get you a couple points back of life, which is sometimes all you need, and it's also on a flying body. 4,000 Enforcers, a 1/2 with Death Touch for 2. The body isn't evasive, but they're not going to want to block it because it has Death Touch and will trade with whatever they have, and then will give you, with its second ability, Afterlife, a 1/1 white and black spirit creature with flying that is an evasive body. Next, we got No Priest of Oblivion, 1 in a black for a creature with menace and lifelink, and if you kick it for 4, you can return a creature from here to the battlefield. This will let you get back a bomb that maybe died, or something you discarded to Gix, and then by itself, it's an evasive, lifelink, and body, so this card's definitely worth inclusion. Knight of Dust Shadow is a human knight. It's got menace. It costs 2 mana, 1 in a black, and your opponents can't gain life. And then for an additional 1 in a black, you can pump it +1/+1 until end of turn. Card is a must because we want to reduce our opponent's life totals to 0. We can't have them gaining any life at all. They may even help us with that task. Next, you got Basilicus Creature. It's again got that extort ability we want to drain on each of our spells, and it's a flying 1/2 for 2. Now we've made it to our stuff that makes multiple bodies, which is going to be excellent for attacking, especially if the bodies are evasive. First, we have Canoptic Scarab Swarm, 4 mana for a flying artifact creature insect. It's a 1/1, but it ETBs and exiles target player's graveyard. For each artifact or creature exiled this way, you make an insect token with the same body and flying. So this makes a wholesale 1/1 to exile a player's yard. This card is amazing. It's a hate piece that also makes a ton of bodies, which works so well in Gix because those evasive attackers are going to draw us more cards. I'm sure you've already heard of Bitter Blossom, but it's a 2 mana enchantment that gives you a 1/1 flyer at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, which can attack and draw you cards. This is a lot of life loss, but we do have a lot of life gain in the deck. Still, this deck plays it very close to the chest, so if that's not a style for you, don't build this deck. I, however, love greatness at any cost, so I'm going to run this card, of course. And Bitter Blossom also lets you have chump blockers each turn if there's a big attacker on board you don't want to get hit by. Another way to poop out creatures is Ophiomancer. This one also is a great deterrent because these creatures have Death Touch. They don't fly, but they're excellent blockers. Realistically, these are going to be used on defense, but you can attack with them if you need to try and draw cards. And most people won't trade a blocker for a Death Touch token of which you'll get another one on the next upkeep. So definitely, if you have a sack engine, these get much better because you can attack, no one blocks, you sacrifice it, get a new one. It blocks from their attackers, you get a new one. Comes back to you, get a new one. This plays a little defense in our deck that is like 85% offense. We're also running Mindless Conscription, 2 and a black for an enchantment, ETB, and whenever you draw a third card each turn, amass zombies 3. So this by itself gives you a 3/3 in the enchantment that will grow the 3/3, or if it dies, make a new 3/3 every time you draw 3 cards, which you should do very frequently in your deck of almost exclusively attacking and drawing cards. This also sneakily combos with our unblockable Changeling, which is also an army, so you can pump the Changeling that is unblockable. It is, however, not optional, and that Changeling cannot block, so be careful with this. It's a double-edged sword. Sinkhole Surveyor is a 1/3 flyer for 2, which is already a pretty solid rate. Whenever it attacks, you lose 1 life, and it endures 1. Either put a 1 counter on it, or create a 1/1 white sphere creature token. You're almost always choosing to create a token, either as a blocker or for an attacker for next turn, but this is another one of those cards, while playing offense, also makes a body for defense. We are literally bribing our opponents to attack each other to draw cards, but you may catch a few strays, and having a chump blocker really deters that. Would you rather attack Johnny, connect, and draw a card, or kill my 1/1? Tough choice. Outside the weenies, we have a few cool key pieces for this deck. One of them is More Opportunist. 1/3, whenever one or more other creatures die, draw a card. It triggers only once each turn, but it also triggers each turn, including your opponent's, so all those tokens that spawn during your opponent's turn that you chump block with will draw you a card. This will make sure our hand is full, even if we're not connecting. Any weenie deck in black probably wants this card. Grim Servant's a 4 mana 3/2 with Menace, but when ETBs, search your library for a card with mana value less than or equal to your devotion to black, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle, you lose 3 life. Our devotion to black is going to be probably greater than most cards CMCs in our deck, so this card is basically just tutor on a body as evasive. Vashta Nerada is a 3-drop that has Shadow and Indestructible, which means it's functionally unblockable and indestructible, and Morbid. Each end step, if a creature died this turn, put 1 counter on it, not just yours. So this card will grow, be unblockable, and attack and draw you cards. It'll also survive damage or destroy wraths, which is great because this deck floods the board, so we really don't like both Blasphemous Act and Vanquish the Horde. Drana, Liberator Malakir is 1 and 2 black for a 3-drop. She has Flying and First Strike. First Strike is important because whenever she does combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature you control, so she will connect first and pump our entire team, often doubling the power on some of our small threats. Milgus Marauders, very good in any mono black deck, but especially this one. It's 2 and a black for a 2/2 when ETBs. Up to X star creatures gain Intimidate and Haste until end of turn, or X your devotion to black. So you can play a bunch of surprise attackers and also get through unblockable on some players to draw extra cards. This card for 3 mana is a steal. Always run this card in this deck. Spectrum Sentinel is a 1-drop. It's kind of a weenie, but it has a specific use in this deck. It's pro multicolored, so it can get through some of those unlocked attacks. But more importantly, whenever a non-basic land enters the battlefield under opponent's control, you gain 1 life. So this will gain you tons of life over the course of the game. Ayara, first a locked lane, is triple black tips for Gary. It's a legendary creature, 2/3. Whenever it or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This will drain your opponents. It'll keep your life total high, and then you can tap and sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. I would save this, see what your opponent's blocked during combat, or you can sacrifice a creature that's in combat with a lifelinker to prevent the life gain for your opponents. This will let you draw even more cards, and some of our creatures even have effects in the graveyard. Next, we've got our move 1 interaction. Everything we're running is highly efficient. Slaughter Pack costs 0 mana, destroy target non-black creature. This is nice because we can't be deflecting swatter for this, at least for our stuff. You must pay the cost. Do not forget about that. Don't lose the game. Next, we got Flare of Malice. We can sacrifice a non-token black creature instead of paying its mana cost, and then each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value they have. So this is what their biggest thing for the cost of a 1-drop from you and 0 mana. Deadly Rollick, if you control a commander, which you want to do, exile any creature. We will also always have a swamp, so we have Snuff Out for even more free interaction in your aggro deck. Hell freaking yes. Font of Agonies, my friends know as a personal favorite card of mine. Whenever you pay life, put that many counters on it, including maybe from your commander's trigger, and then for 1 and a black, remove 4 blood counters from Font of Agonies, destroy target creature. This will almost always be stacked and serve as a pinpoint removal spell for you for the entire game. If your opponents don't remove this card, you will probably win the game, and the card costs 1 mana. This card is insane. You should run it in Gix and any other deck that pays life. Sadly for me, my friends are good Magic players and almost always remove this the second it comes down because they know that I cannot be allowed to have this. Next, we got one of our life gain spells, Consuming Corruption, 2 black, instant, deals X damage to our creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life for X number of swamps you control. This is our removal spell that also bounces back our life total. Again, most of our lands are swamps. This will probably gain you like 7+ life and kill a moderate sized creature. We have Withering Torment, instant, 2 and a black, destroy target creature or enchantment, you lose 2 life. This card is a new de facto enchantment removal spell for black. We're also running Gaia's Van Belser, the creature that ETBs and either edicts, enchantments, tokens, or creatures. Having enchantment hate in mono black is huge, especially in an aggro deck. Ghostly Prison hurts our soul. Get that shit out of there. Soul Shatter costs 1 less than Flare of Malice normally, but it can't be cast for free by sacrificing something. The best way to use this, wait till someone taps out for their commander, make them sad, and then also get 2 other players in the crossfire. This and Flare of Malice really should see more play as they hit all players. And lastly, say hello to Darkest Smile Friend. It's a 1 mana instant that's just black fog. No one really expects it, and you can leave yourself open to then bait an attack. Suddenly it's an opponent who's this card is very good and very efficient. All right, we made it all the way to the bombs. I mentioned earlier this deck hates Blasphemous Act. So one really fun insurance piece for Blasphemous Act is Phyrexian Obliterator, because the caster would have to sacrifice 13 permanents, and this would happen after their creatures are destroyed. So this will basically lock on the game if they cast Blasphemous Act. This is the best deterrence to Blasphemous Act, I think. Separately, it's a 5/5 Trampler. It has 4 pips for Gary to gain life, and it's likely to connect because, again, if they deal damage to it, they sacrifice that many permanents. Conversely, it's also great on defense against the GGGs, the grounded green giants. Shadow of Mortality has an imposing casting cost of 15. However, that number is reduced by the difference between your current life total and your starting life total. This will often just cost 2 black for a 7/7. Sign me up. Phyrexian Fleshgorger is a flexible prototype creature. You can either cast it as a 3/3 Menace lifelink for 1 black with Ward, pay 3 life to even target it, or for 7 mana, it can be a 7/5 with the same abilities. Flexibility is why I run this card, but the lifelink is huge. To me, it's also somewhat important to have some artifact threats in your deck. If you're a mono card deck, so you're not dead in the water to certain swords of X and Y. Anything pro black will give you a hard time. If an artifact, you have a blocker. Notably, the prototype version is a black creature though, so be careful. Speaking of lifelink, as an aggro player, it would really suck if your opponents gain life. So what if they didn't? Erebos got the dead, 3 and a black. It's a 5/7 indestructible. Most importantly, your opponents can't gain life. But then you can pay 1 and a black, pay 2 life, draw a card, so it's even more card draw for our deck. It's also just a giant body because we're going to have the black devotion to make this a creature. So it's also a 5/7 indestructible creature. It does everything you want to be doing in mono black. Speaking of everything you want to be doing in mono black, we're running the aforementioned Gary, aka Great Merchant of Asphodel. ETB, each opponent loses X life, you gain life lost this way. We're actually devotion to black. This card wins games by itself. Another way for us to win games is throwing the Godfire, 2 mana only for legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equals the number of tap creatures you control, which should be a lot of them because you want to be swinging out. For more life loss, we have Scrolling Trawler. At the beginning of our upkeep, each player draws a card, including our opponents, but whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. This counts their draw step, it counts this, it counts drawing cards off your commander's damage trigger, so this will vastly decrease the amount of time our opponents have to use those cards. These last 4 cards make up half the budget for the deck, maybe even more. So you can take these cards out if you want. That would also push the deck down from bracket 3 to bracket 2. But the first is Bloodthirsty Conqueror, 3 and 2 black for a 5/5 flying death touch. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. This is everything down to fetches and pain lands. Effectively lifelink on your attacks, but it also means when they pay a life to draw a card, you gain that life back. This will ensure that you never run out of life to use as a resource. It's also a flying 5/5 for 5, so that's great on its own. And its ability is independent of and stacks with lifelink. So we've got Shieldred the Apocalypse for your wallet, 2 and 2 black. It's a 4/5 death touch. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life, completely mitigating Gix's passive ability on damage. And then whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life, tripling the damage they take. So this card really, again, turns the clock in your favor, which this deck wants to do. This commander is 100% about breaking the synergy of what if the game was just an all-out brawl to the death. And then at the end, he just steals all your stuff and plays it for free. Next, we have Bowmasters. If you have this out, your opponents really can't attack. You can also flash this in if they're about to draw a bunch of cards to maybe Plague Win somebody. This card's very good. There's a reason it's a game changer. The One Ring is much better in my mind. It comes in, gives you protection, so it's that fog effect we want, because again, we're kind of open with this deck. We're mostly swinging out, but on top of that, it will draw an insane amount of cards, then pitch to our commander to steal from our opponents. Lands for this deck are very simple because we're mono black, so running 30 Swamps and Cabal Coffers, as well as Cabal Stronghold. It's one of the strongest things you can be doing in mono black, so you should make sure you have a lot of Swamps. Our only really 2 lands outside of those are Nykthos, which also makes us a ton of mana because we're mono black. Agadeem's Awakening, the MDFC, because we have a spread curve and it can very easily get us back an entire field out of nowhere. And Malakir Rebirth to protect our commander. And lastly, Demolition Field, because it's a land destruction spell for our opponents, but it will get us a swamp as a replacement. That wraps up Gix. I think he's a very simple commander, but there's still a lot of play to him. I've played this deck a bunch. It's one of my actual favorite decks in Commander. It is so fun to play. The game always ends quickly, but there's still a lot of interesting gameplay involved. And you have variety because you steal your opponent's cards, so you always play with new cards despite playing the same deck. There's a lot of decision making and attacking and blocking, and this commander really forces that issue. So if you like combat and like mono black, this is definitely the commander for you. As always, I'm sfreezy. You can find more of my stuff here on YouTube, and remember to stay frosty and keep on brewing.